Blog Talk Radio.
Namaste, hello everybody from wherever in the world or wherever throughout infinite consciousness you may be. This is Nature of Reality Radio. It is January 29th, 2014. I am your host, Andrew Fisher, broadcasting every Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern from the suburbs of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And tonight on the show, we have an individual who may not have much of a household name, and he has a job like all of us, like most of us anyway, who haven't been victimized by the economy. His job is fisherman. But behind that job on earth as a fisherman, he holds a lot of knowledge and wisdom in regards to spirituality and consciousness and metaphysics. And he was recommended by Helane Lipson, who I had a hell of a time with down at the in 5D City of Angels Cosmic Awakening Conference. We had fun just like everybody else had fun, activating that ley line in Los Angeles and raising the vibrations of everybody on planet Earth and infinite consciousness in general to a love-based frequency. And before I get to the news, I might as well get into that for a moment. That event, it meant a lot. It activated a lot of people, and spoke to some ET contactees there like Noral Harold and Bashar, and also Dr. Dream did a great galactivation. I don't know if it was as good as the one in Sarasota, Florida, at the N5D Return to Atlantis conference, but there was a lot of quartz crystal on the beach at that conference, so it kind of makes sense that that one would have felt differently and maybe even better, but still, it was a great experience to go through that again, that galactivation he did, and Laura Eisenhower, great cosmic Gaia Sophia she is, gave another fascinating presentation. I think it was actually the same presentation I saw at the conference in Sarasota, but very, very informative piece of information there that she gave, as did the other presenters, and kudos to Greg Prescott of N5D and Helane Lipson as well, and CJ Miller too, and everybody else. So before I get Larry on, need to get to the news. Well, Obama gave a State of the Union address. I don't know anything about it. I didn't watch it. I'm sure that InfoWars Nightly News will be going over some of the stuff there, but you obviously cannot trust Obama. The guy's involved in a global genocide, and if you have a Obama support sticker on the back of your car, it might as well also have another sticker next to it that says, I am stupid. Worst president ever, worst tyrant ever, talking about doing things by executive order, strictly by fiat, administrative law, totally uncool. That's not what the president is supposed to be. Congress is supposed to have the most power. The courts, the Supreme Court, is supposed to have the second highest level of power, and the president is just supposed to be a quarterback who calls the shots, and the Congress and the courts are supposed to have authority to decide whether or not the president's decision is okay. Hey folks, sorry about that. There seems to be a problem with Blog Talk Radio in regards to connection. Hopefully I will not get disconnected again, but we are still on the air. Hope you're all still with me. So now I got to do the news on the fly because of that little error. If I get offline, I'll probably know because there'll be a beep or something. But just stay with me. I will try to do this show until 8 o'clock, even if I get knocked off because of problems throughout the course. But anyway, report common GMO tobacco virus potentially linked to bee deaths. Yeah, if we lose the bees, we lose a lot of stuff. They're disappearing because, well, they're being killed on purpose, and they give us a lot of stuff besides honey. So if they're gone, we're in a lot of trouble. NSA hires former DHS official as civil liberties and privacy officer. Well, the NSA and the DHS don't give two horses' asses about liberties and privacy. So if the NSA hires someone who used to work for the DHS, you can kiss your liberties and privacy goodbye. InfoWars crew annihilates Obama's State of the Union lies live on air. Well, said I didn't watch it, but I can't wait to see that. TSA, Super Bowl fans may encounter Viper teams. Yeah, they always want to roll out the TSA all over the place besides airports. Very, very, very uncool. It's not for your safety. It's to humiliate you, control you, break your will. Very disgusting. Award Edward Snowden the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, like that's going to happen. The Nobel Prize is not designed to go to people who actually care about peace. It's all an Illuminati illusion. It's just a petition or something, a campaign of sorts. I'll definitely try to chime in on that, even though I know he'll never get it. Snowden will never get the Nobel Peace Prize because they don't want people like him to get prizes and get attention. U.S. intelligence boss predicts more violence in Ukraine. Yeah, people in the Ukraine aren't really wanting to join the EU because they want global totalitarian government. It's because they had to go through genocide with Russia, and they think they'll be able to get out of that if they join the EU. But Ukraine, you don't know what you're doing. Those protesters, they don't want to join the EU. It's a stepping stone to global totalitarian government. Here we go. Obama promises to enact gun control laws with or without Congress. I seem to be talking about this a couple minutes ago. Second Amendment, Obama. If we lose the Second Amendment, we lose everything. Well, of course you know that because you want to take everything from us. Folks, Larry, you are on the air, 360. I seem to be having a lot of problems here in regards to connection. Hopefully I will not become disconnected, but as of now you are on the air. I don't know when I got disconnected in terms of the news. Do you know when I got disconnected in terms of the news?
Yes, I do. Right in the middle of all the exciting parts, all the dramatic parts. Yeah, pretty much right in the middle of each time.
You don't remember what the subject matter was? What subject matter was I discussing? Do you remember?
It was, let's see, I believe it was only.
You don't remember, do you?
Seconds ago. No. I don't. That news is the same news as I see on TV, except for a different degree of focus. It's the same news, though. It's still powerlessness and control and domination and all that other stuff. So I haven't really been paying a lot of attention to that. Not at attention to the drama part, because it feels like that to me. It feels like that it's there for that purpose, to draw you in.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the way I see it,
though.
Even though conspiracy theories may be fear-mongering in a sense, you do have to cover them in order to wake up humanity. That's an unfortunate fact of life, and that's why I cover it anyway every show. But
that's fine.
Since we don't really know okay, so since we don't really know exactly what news story I was on when I got cut off, I'm not going to bother doing it again. But that was a pain in the ass, wasn't it? So hopefully I won't get cut off. If I do, please don't hang up the show. Don't hang up the show because I will be doing whatever I can to call in and finishing this at 8 p.m. So why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Well, it's funny that you said I'm not a household name because I do have a house, and in that house I am a household name. It's a very big house. I'm teasing. Yes, I'm Larry, and I've been involved in a lot of things. I've been a fisherman for the last 20 or so years, and fishing has evolved through the same set of circumstances. It's almost like a microcosm of the macrocosm, the larger world, the smaller world. We have politics, we have government, we have police, we have control, we have science that's controlled by politics, we have rules, we have multiple layers of bureaucracy and rules on top of rules, and we have a lot of blame and a lot of shame and all kinds of things that are flowing around that whole world. So from within that little world, the whole entire world is expressed, in a lot of ways. Overfishing, for example, is, I guess I skipped out of who am I?
You say you're a fisherman.
Yeah, but
so why don't you get
the entire world, It is representative of the entire world. All of the parts that are in the world are in the fishing world, too. The fishing world is impacted by all of those. In much the same way anybody doing anything, any work-wise, especially their own business, get impacted by all of these things in some fashion or another. And so living your life in a way where those impacts are, I guess, not impacting you anymore is
Larry, Larry, I hate to burst your bubble, but you are breaking up immensely on my computer.
Okay, I'll try turning. Maybe I'll open the door. Is this any better? Skype has a way of doing that with Blog Talk, I've noticed.
Larry, I had another problem, and before I hung up on you, you were breaking up immensely. I don't know if there's a connection there in which the breaking up is a sign that you were about to go off the air. But, I mean, all we can do is cross our fingers here, and I couldn't understand anything you said there. So you were talking about how you were a fisherman. Why don't you get into your the spirituality side of your life?
Yeah, well, what I was saying was essentially the fisherman part of my life has been and is a sort of a microcosm of the macrocosm. What I mean by that is it's a small world, but everything in the big world exists in that small world. All of the influences, impacts, all of the battles, all of the drama, all of the politics, all the science that's run by politics, all the control, to the degree of multiple layers of bureaucracy, multiple layers of police, multiple layers of sovereignty. Not to mention I'm a member of a Native American tribe, the Macaw tribe, and so we have an even more structure on top of a structure, if you know what I'm saying. And so in order to navigate that and be a happy, healthy, comfortable, integrated, spiritual person, what do? You go crazy.
What do you do?
Literally crazy.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, you do.
Well, what you do is what we've been doing, waking up to the larger reality and understanding to a large degree what appears to be control over us is our agreeing to be controlled. And so we begin clearing our agreement. We're not in agreement with being controlled by someone who is actually not in control of us. And there's fear that comes up, fear of, well, what if I don't? What will happen? And so, for myself at least, exactly the right teachers and exactly the right circumstances began appearing to help, I guess, illuminate whatever it is that was in the very next obstruction. So it could be 3 or 6 months worth of a Qigong practice and meditation, hours a day, and a vegetarian diet that lasted for a few months, and actually processing what happens when you're a vegetarian and you want a hamburger. These kind of things appear, right? And so as you navigate through them and you select what it is that you choose, what do I want to do? I want to have a hamburger, so I think I'll have a hamburger, and it feels good. And it didn't kill me, and it isn't a selected diet or anything else, but it's essentially the fear of this choice. If I choose this, am I now not spiritual because now I'm eating meat? These are examples I'm trying to share, you know?
Yes. And by the way, we have a caller. I don't know if this caller is going to be telling me about how the radio show is breaking up, or worse, maybe they're going to tell me that they can't actually hear the show. I know that's happened on Blog Talk Radio, so I'm going to get this caller on the air and see what they have to say about whatever. So, area code 856, area code 856, you are on the air. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
You are breaking up immensely. I can barely hear you.
I can hear you perfectly.
Well, thank you. So how are you guys tonight?
Fantastic.
I love it. The radio program for me is coming in very clear, and I just wanted to call to let you know that. Otherwise, everything is great.
Well, thank you for that.
And, Andrew, anything else?
I think we lost
Hi, we got a problem. Caller 856, I cannot hear you. You are indecipherable, and I don't know if you're the one who's talking or if Larry's the one who's talking.
Both of us are talking. I can hear Larry very well. I can hear you very well, but I guess Andrew can't hear me.
Yeah, it sounds like he can't hear us very well.
Well, I want to listen anyway. You guys go ahead and continue your conversation. You can tell that to Andrew for me.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. Now you are clear. I didn't hear anything you just said until literally 5 seconds ago. What was this all about? Okay. What just happened?
Well, Andrew, I support you. I'll listen to your show, and God bless you guys, and what would you do?
Okay.
He was sharing that he can hear us all very clearly.
All right, well, that's reassuring.
The problem hearing is you, which is awkward since you're the one hosting.
Yeah. I hate to think that someone's hacking in my computer to make my life miserable for this, but
yeah. That
okay. Well, actually, area code 856. I'm going to give you the chance to say everything that you just said. If you want to say it again, because I'm interested in hearing that.
Well, thank you, Andrew. I think you're doing a great job, and I followed you from the very first time. Your first one with George Kavassilis, and I'm in New Jersey. I operate a metaphysical New Age bookstore, and we just honor all the passages back to the divine. And what you guys do is a wonderful thing, and we support you.
Awesome. And can I get your name, please?
Yes, it's Akbar. It's Akkbar.
Okay, thanks a lot. I got to get into the habit of asking callers their names. I had a problem doing that at the beginning of the show, and now I seem to be getting into that habit again. It's disrespectful to the callers. I got to make sure I break that habit. But thank you very much for your support. I hate to have technical problems here that's trying to make this show miserable for me, but we're going to continue, and I appreciate you calling in. Anything else? Area code 856. All right. Catch you around later. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, it seems to be on your end. We can hear everything perfectly well. I could talk to him quite well and hear him quite well.
Right. Well, I know Andrew Bartzis, when he's talked on his radio shows, he can hear us fine, but other people cannot hear it. And as an Akashic Records reader, I believe he did say that the archons are trying to block out what he's saying so people don't get it, because they know that his Akashic skills can get the right answer, so they don't want him to get that information out. But I do hope we don't have the same problems. And well, it was nice to get that caller on the air. But Larry, since you were mentioning vegetarianism, I wanted to talk about that here for a moment. It's come to my belief, basically, that humans are not supposed to be eating any sort of meat. And not only that, a whistleblower by the name of Pete Peterson, who I saw interview on Project Camelot, he said that if you were to watch a lion eating an animal, the lion does not eat any muscle tissue. They eat basically everything they can eat except the muscle tissue. And Pete even said that muscle tissue is toxic. And knowing that, I'm thinking, well, why in the world are we eating it? Well, as someone who's tried vegetarianism, can you offer any comments or statements about this stuff, about muscle tissue being toxic and how we humans got about eating it?
Sure. That's an interesting thought. I haven't actually sat in the savannah and watched a lion eat. I've seen them eat on Discovery Channel. They don't seem to be terribly picky about the muscle tissue. I notice that they go straight for the highest energy parts, livers and guts and eyeballs, and all of the animals go for the highest, richest foods first. That's just what I've always seen. Crabs go for eyeballs first. I don't know. They're soft. They're easy to get. And I can't say that I haven't seen. I don't have a lot of experience with lions, but I never observed them not eating the legs and the bones and the marrow and all of the pieces afterward. I believe they go back to the kill over and over again. So I don't know that that's a fact, but it'll be an interesting thing. Yeah, the vegetarianism was a side effect of the meditations and the vibrational work. And it was less to do with not eating meat and everything to do with the foods that were supporting that energy state in alignment with that state of vibration that I was working at. And so it wasn't, I'm not going to eat meat because of a thing somebody said or did or thought. It was because meat wasn't something that my body was wanting. It felt repulsed by it, which is really unusual because, to be honest, up until that point, I had never spent a day, not one day ever, where I didn't eat meat. That was an everyday thing and every meal thing. There wasn't a meal that didn't have meat in it. And it happened quite spontaneously where meat was intolerable for a while. And food has a huge impact on your vibration. And it could be a number of things. The meats that were available were low vibration meats. There were no high vibrational, clean, happy meats available in my environment. The only thing that was available that was the highest vibration was seeds, nuts, and berries and vegetables at the time. Even fish didn't work. I couldn't even tolerate a fish. And, fish have a sentience, animals have a sentience, vegetables have a sentience, rocks, plants, the earth, everything has a sentience. So it isn't a matter of not bringing in sentience into you. It's just spontaneous. It's just, if you listen into your body, it'll tell you, this is what I would like. And if you're not listening, you just go on and eat and you feel sick and you don't know why. Or what it is that you're aiming for consciously, what you're experiencing, if you're in integrity while you're doing it, and looking inside and asking your own body, what does it actually want? It tells you. At one point...
Right, and... Keep going. You can keep talking, talking.
Meats, absolutely. Meats are a concentration of many toxins, and they're also a concentration of the emotional experience they had when they're dying. And they're a concentration of the experience that animal had over its lifetime. And so most of the meats that are available to you are toxic. Sure. Somehow or other, people live to 100 years old eating toxic meats. I suppose if you stay asleep, it doesn't, have a big effect on you as maybe when you begin to become conscious of it, because the attitude that you're bringing to what you're ingesting is aware of it, and so it becomes a component. And so as you become aware, you become more able to choose what it is that you want to ingest, and you can ingest meat, but you need to be selective with it because you're more sensitive to your state of being. So, if you're drunk and can't, you really care what you ate, it could be nacho cheese on pizza, and that's pretty damn good from that place. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with nacho cheese on pizza. But as you become more conscious and aware of yourself, you feel the effect that had on you from the place that you're at, and it's less, it's not as expansive. So you wouldn't choose that. But you would naturally not choose that. Your body would say, I'm not really interested in pizza with nacho cheese, maybe a nipple, and then say, no, that's not going to work. So it's quite natural and quite organic what it is that you ingest. And as you become more aware, you make different choices, that's all. So don't subscribe to a vegetarian or non-vegetarian or seeds or nuts or berries or meats or any fruitarian or any particular structure of diet other than what it is that your body, when you're listening, is telling you. And it's pretty well equipped. If you eat something that doesn't settle and doesn't feel right, do you stop or just keep on eating? That's the basic thing you really need to do. Just be aware of your own body.
That's right. And processed food, I remember hearing that processed food is by far the worst kind of meat. Well, I'm interested to know, since you seem to be an expert on food, in a sense, on how it affects your body at a spiritual level, what is it about processed food that makes it the worst food you can possibly eat?
Well, actually, I didn't say I was expert on food. I just said on my own body and how it affects my body. I'll tell you a funny story. I think you might find it funny. I do. I did a Syrian activation call. It was a meditation for an hour long with about 100 or 200 people. And the energy of the Syrians came in through our crowns to activate, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a very energetic experience. I mean, you could feel in your crown, the top of your head, activity happening. And this was a year or two ago. And the consequence of that was my body was so energized, high, vibrationally, really activated, that it was just about uncomfortable. And the only solution that came to hand was a Twinkie to me. I had to slam a Twinkie because I had moved to a place that I wasn't even comfortable with. It doesn't resonate with the environment I'm even in. The environment itself and that vibration weren't terribly compatible. So I actually had to moderate my vibration back down just to be able to function. And there's healthier choices, of course, besides the Twinkie, but it certainly didn't kill me, but it definitely had the effect of bringing me back down to where I could function in the place and space that I was at. And there's nothing wrong with functioning in the world that you exist in and creating the world that you want. Those are both coexisting right now. So food is a moderation of your vibration. And poisons and chemicals and all of those things. There's a lot to be said about avoiding them, and it's the same as the meat and the toxins as they're built in. Your body would not want that as easily as somebody telling you with their mouth, you know, this isn't that great. You might, instead of when you pick something up, you look at the ingredients and you start seeing things that you don't recognize, and you say, yeah, I don't really know if I want to eat some hydroproxynex. Well, I don't even know what that is. I think I might pick something else. That would be your body being aware and seeing and deciding what it wants. And another time you might see something and you say, oh, my God, that looks fantastic. And the ingredients are irrelevant. How you feel about it, that's 100% relevant. And so if you eat it and you feel guilty about it, not so good. If you eat it and you feel great, how could it be bad?
Yes, and speaking of putting things in your body, at the conference that I was at, the N5D City of Angels Cosmic Awakening Conference, I decided to bring some iodine there because I was concerned about Fukushima radiation, because I knew that it would affect us at a physical, biological, and metaphysical level, and the West Coast is being bombarded by Fukushima radiation. And they were very happy to see that I was willing to give that out to people. And however, one of the co-hosts, Vivian Ling, she was a co-host in a sense, but she told me that you shouldn't be worrying about this. If you worry about it, it's going to haunt you. Just use your heart energy to get the radiation out. And I've told her, yes, and if we act like ostriches with our heads in the sand and pretend that it's not there, it's going to harm us a lot more than acknowledging it exists. So, first of all, do you know anything about the metaphysical properties of iodine, and would you agree with me that if you act like an ostrich with your head in the sand, you can get metaphysical all you want, and but the fact that you ignore it is going to come back to haunt you, as I was trying to tell them?
Well, ignorance is bliss, my friend. If you hide in a cave and you didn't know it happened, would it hurt you? That's a pretty metaphysical question, right?
Right. Well, this is different.
If you didn't even know Fukushima occurred, would it harm you? That's a pretty good question. Let's just look at it for a sec. What do you think? I mean, I know what I think. What do you think?
Well, I guess if you ignore it, it's going to come back to bite you, right? I mean, just because you're not observing something, you think it's not there, but other people around you, because of collective consciousness, it's still going to be there, even though you never had any evidence that it existed from your own experience. It's called collective consciousness, and that means, it's going to be affecting you, even though you had no evidence that it was there. Am I right, or am I mistaken?
No, there's no mistaken. It's just a question that we can explore. If you're in a cave and you didn't know those nuclear power plants blew up and they poisoned all your food and you ate food, would you be affected by it? That's a pretty good question to look at, because on a lot of levels, as you dig into it, you see there is the choice, there is there's so much there to play with. As I would expect, if you were living a conscious life, you would be paying attention to your body. It would point you to things like English soul. If you're a sea person and you live on the sea, English soul is high in iodine, and you might start eating English soul, not even know why all of a sudden you have a craving for English soul, but you're following this stuff's good. So naturally, iodine coming out of soul in the ocean. The medicine is already there. So it was pointless and irrelevant really to have that information, because your body is the gauge. And for you right now, iodine, absolutely perfect. It absolutely is what your body wants. And the desire to share it, absolutely, because you want to share what is helping you. Nothing wrong at all with that. The sticking your head in the sand, I don't so much agree with that. No. What's the point of waking up and being aware and making choices if you're going to make choices to pretend like nothing's going on? You do live in this world.
Yes, I do live in this world. And by the way, it's interesting to note that you always are breaking up whenever I finish speaking and ask you to give your 2 cents in. It seems like for about 30 seconds of your speaking, you are breaking up like crazy. And then all of a sudden, you're coming back after a little bit. I can hear you clearly. I don't know what to make of that. Make that whatever you will. But something tells me as soon as I shut up and let you start talking again, it's going to happen again. But regardless, I guess that means I should just move on with different subjects every time and not really worry too much about what you said. I'm going to listen to this whole thing all over again because I have no choice now that this is happening. But one other thing.
I do think it's on your side, actually.
Yes, strange enough. Well, whatever the case may be, another thing about the conference that as a spiritual worker, maybe you can tell me whether what I was doing was good or bad. There is a video on YouTube called Secrets Police Don't Want You to Know. And by the way, I had the guy giving the presentation in that video as a guest on my show last week. His name is Eddie Craig, and that was a masterpiece presentation. I'm not going to get into details much. You can check it out on YouTube. It's about 2.5 hours long. It's totally worth watching. It holds the key to keeping billions of dollars in stolen money out of the hands of the tyrants in government, the corrupt cops, and the New World Order, and following the advice in that video. And I'm on a crusade of sorts to get that video out to as many people as possible, and I brought it with me to both the In5D Return to Atlantis conference and the In5D City of Angels conference, and I wanted to give it out to people, but some of the co-hosts were being a little anal about it. I respect what they were doing, but this is kind of flawed, I think. They were telling me, hey, don't be giving that video out to people. You're going to make everybody uncomfortable because you're talking about the police. And I'm thinking, oh, please, this video holds the key to keeping billions out of the hands of the tyrant. So I think the fact that the word police is in the title is quite irrelevant.
Yeah.
But yet they seemed rather insistent that giving that video out is going to lower the vibration of everybody, even though it does what I obviously said it can do. Simply because it contains the word police in the title. I mean, as a light worker and a spirituality expert, would you agree with them that I shouldn't be giving that video out to people at that conference?
No, I wouldn't agree with anybody telling you what you should do or shouldn't do. You do what you feel you want to do. That is the purpose for you here. And there's no way that I would, essentially tell you, no, don't do that because you're lowering everybody's vibration. The people who need that information found it through you because you were there to give it to them. And for them, that's exactly what they needed. It's as simple as that. Now, not everybody is at the same space energetically, and for some people, some information is downstream. And for other people, it's upstream. Maybe you've heard that or thought of that before.
All right, I'm assuming you're not speaking. Oh, sorry, you broke up again. That's the reason why.
Okay. Well, it's a little hard to answer the question if you can't hear the answer, huh? That's kind of funny. So can you hear me now? I'll talk a little while, and maybe after 30 seconds it will come clear. I'm going to repeat it just so that we can continue our conversation, which was essentially that, no, I don't agree with anybody telling you what you can and can't do. I think that's the whole point, is that you are here to do what it is that you're here to do. And if at this point in time that is sharing this video with everyone who wants to see it, of course. Why wouldn't you do that? And anyone who needs that information, they have it. And they maybe have access because you are there. That could be the whole reason you're there with it. And for some people, that information is upstream. That helps them, moves them out of a stagnant spot. And for others, maybe it's downstream, and they don't need the information. Well, they don't have to watch it. But certainly they don't, and you don't have to agree to be controlled one way or the other by what another person might feel about it. That's how I feel anyway.
Right. Larry, just for a moment, did you by any chance hear me talking while you were explaining that right now? Because for a moment I thought you stopped talking and I was trying to speak. Were you able to hear me as you were speaking, or did you not hear me speaking as you were talking just now?
No, I didn't hear you speaking, actually. I reset what I had said because it didn't sound like you heard me.
Okay. Whatever. Well, hopefully
it came out good. I'm really happy with what I said, so we could listen to it later.
Okay, well, yes, we'll listen to it later. So it's so
it's all right, Andrew.
I don't know why I'm being victimized by so many Blog Talk Radio glitches. I've had my fair share of them since I've hosted this show. I mean, I shouldn't get paranoid and think that it's the NSA or something watching me, because paranoia.
Wouldn't it be great if they were listening, because maybe they would hear something they need to hear?
Yes. Well,
I hope
I've
they tune in.
talked. Yes, I'm waiting a Freedom of Information request from them. As a matter of fact, I recommend everybody do this. Send a FIOI request to the NSA saying, thanks to Edward Snowden, the whole world knows that you guys have information on people's private lives through programs, and list a bunch of NSA programs and say you want everything from this. I sent a Freedom of Information Act, and they played dumb with me saying, we can't release this because it would help America get victimized by terrorists. And I basically sent him a reply saying, stop playing dumb. You know 9/11 was an inside job and everything else. Could you please just get me what I want? I don't know what they're going to say, but I eagerly await it. Should be coming any day now. But moving on to
that's really
more
clever. That's
stuff.
Awesome.
Yes, Alex Jones and his friends at InfoWars were nice enough to put the video that I shot about my experience on the Infowars.com site on the Planet Infowars section. So that got out to a lot of people. Kudos to Alex and his friends for doing that. But moving on, since you're a light worker, I mean, when I became familiar with the term light worker when I heard about the Silver Legion, which is a group of higher level consciousness, benevolent entities that go through other dimensions and realms on missions to save people and such. They are light workers, and they're also light warriors. They do battle with malevolent reptilians and other archontic entities, and they even said when you're fighting evil forces like reptilian aliens, you have to understand that violence becomes necessary at certain times, and that's where the light warriors come into play. But in general, they are a light worker race. What kind of light worker are you, and can you explain what does that term and also the term light warrior mean, if you can explain that as well?
Those are pretty good questions. Let's see. A light warrior, the being who is battling a dark warrior. It's a good battle. That's duality at its finest. It goes up and down the scales. It doesn't stop at a certain dimension or a certain experience. They can play that perfectly well here, there, wherever they like. So, yes, light warriors are in a battle. And that is part of what you are a part of, or you maybe choose differently. You don't have it isn't necessary to have a battle if you actually don't want to be in a battle. So that they need to be or should be or are doing what they're doing, I really couldn't comment, because I haven't any direct experience with them, other than what you've shared and what you've said. I have heard about that. I think it was Silver Legion and some kind of a policing force on a higher dimensional level. I remember hearing something about that, but I don't really have any idea about the facts or accuracy of that information. If it's true, cool. I just can't really say for certain. But as a light worker, essentially being what it is, who you are, in the largest way that you are. Essentially, that is almost like, as I see it, all of us learn by observing. Observation is essentially how we learn. If you've ever had children, you could tell them 1,000 times, but whatever it is you're doing, that's what they see as actually what they ought to do. And so, in a sense, being the example of what you'd like to experience, who you'd like to meet, being who you would like to meet, is your job. That's the job of a light worker, being who they want to meet. And if that is a being who's in a lot of battles, that's who you're going to meet. That's who you're going to call into your field. That's who you're going to see. That's all that you will see. You will see all of that drama and believe that's all that exists. And in fact, that isn't actually true. When you really get into it, when you really begin to look around your immediate, just pull it in pull it in closer to yourself for a moment and look inside your house and the plants that maybe you have in your house, the pillow that you have on your bed, if you have pets, your animals, and how they feel about you and with you, how much drama is involved with them. Shrink it a little bit and then start expanding it back out, and then really gauge who and what is coming into your field, who is actually impacting you, and is your life a reflection of what you desire, or is it a reflection of what somebody else is telling you is going on? It's the same with the news. If you watch the news, you're pretty sure everywhere you go, people are getting murdered. Everywhere, all day long, and are kidnapped and raped and everything else. But if you look and withdraw in a little bit to your actual world experience, your actual bubble around you, it's possible that some of that has happened, but it isn't an everyday thing. It isn't even an every year thing. It's probably not even an every decade thing, and it may not even have happened to you. But focusing on worrying and
Yeah, you mentioned duality. I've heard that term a lot. You see the word dual in that word. It implies battle, and you said a battle is duality at its finest. But when you're talking about duality, are there times when duality does not imply conflict? And if so, could you elaborate?
Is there duality between orange and blue?
I'm sure at some level there is.
Do you think orange and blue fight? I guess it's possible orange and blue could have an argument, but I don't see what they would argue about. They might merge and combine and create a new color, and they might be two expressions of energy, and that is dual, two colors. It's possible for them to merge. I don't see how they could fight. So in that sense, slightly obliquely, yes, that's dual, multiple colors. And it has as much battle as, I guess, grapes and apples. They kind of get along well.
Okay, and duality is something that the forces within the Illuminati seem to want to enhance. There's a lot of things that they do out there to I seem to be a little confused about duality. When I think of duality, it's like they're trying to make things more at opposite extremes instead of more closer together. Is that right?
Well, yeah, that's the purpose and the intent, absolutely. And that is why access to the information of the alternative news is available, so that you have something to be righteously and indignant about. It's part of the reason for the information being there and being available, although it appears suppressed. It is suppressed enough to feel suppressed, but not suppressed enough to be unavailable. It's a completely available thing. Anybody who desires, essentially, anyone who's not watching TV for their news anymore, they have access to a different form of that same news in another way that appears suppressed, but actually isn't. It's completely available to anyone who wants it. Do you see that?
I didn't understand anything you said because you broke up. So, oh my God, that was so inconvenient. But it's okay. I'll be listening to everything you just said over again. By the way, word of advice, since this is bound to happen again, I suggest we not try to ask each other questions back and forth. How's that we just make this straightforward and simple? I ask you something, you just explain everything to the best of your ability, and then when I hear you stop talking for a couple seconds, then I'll start talking again. But at no point during your explanation try to ask me any question or anything like that, because if you do, I'm not going to be able to understand that you're asking me a question. So I'll make the comments and ask you the question. You explain everything without asking me anything, and then we'll just move on from there. So, getting back to duality, forgive me if you already mentioned this because I couldn't hear you, but there was a presentation I saw by this guy named Mark Passio, who was a former Church of Satan member turned Illuminati whistleblower, and he is in the Philadelphia area. See him very often at rallies and protests and whatnot, and he talked all about how Illuminati forces would want to exacerbate duality by putting symbols and colors on the police uniforms and law enforcement and military personnel outfits, they would suppress the third eye by putting pentagram on the hats of certain law enforcement officers and a checkered diagram like the Freemasons use around the hat to suppress the crown chakra. And also judges, they wear a robe that symbolizes Saturn, which is a symbol for Satan, and the colors red and blue. That causes extreme duality, while the color green is more like balanced. And when they put red and blue on the top of police cars, that's a way of exacerbating duality to make the cops behave worse, as is all the symbols they wear and the cloaks that judges wear. Can you offer any comments or statements on the extent to which duality is exacerbated through symbolism and such in the law enforcement and military community? Hello? Hello?
The game being played. And that's a game that we played for ages and ages and ages. And sure, certain colors and certain structures and certain things could have been used or might have inherent powers or enhance the ability for those agreeing to play this game to have that experience bigger and more. But the same way everything else works, when you're choosing not to play that game anymore, then a different set of experiences happen along the lines of hiding in the cave and not knowing Fukushima blew up and eating iodine-rich flatfish. Maybe you drink orange and it counteracts blue and red. Maybe that happens to you naturally. I can only speculate, but it seems that if you're not agreeing to all of those as a part of your experience, they tend to not have any power over you. And essentially, that is what it is. It's power over others. And so there's power over others, and there's the power of yourself. So if you're focused on power of self, the game that you desire to play now, instead of power over others, or victim, aggressor, or, service to self, things like that, then an entirely different set of people begin to come into your life. And if it is police, they don't come with their red and blue lights flashing and their hat on with their checkerboards and Saturn symbols. They come up to you in the afternoon with no police uniform on, and they ask you a question about something that's been on their mind. In my experience, that's what happens.
Okay, by the way, to make matters even worse, for the first 10 seconds, I couldn't hear you at all. There was no breaking up. There was no sound. Well, now Blog Talk Radio is really pissing me off. But, okay.
I'll just assume that everybody could hear me as much as they want, as long as they want, and I'll just continue to talk. I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, just like I said, we'll do it. Okay, so have you by any chance had any contact with extraterrestrials, or should I say, well, I shouldn't use the word extraterrestrials, I should use the word other dimensional entities from other densities and dimensions of consciousness? And if so, can you explain your experiences?
That's a really good question. And the answer is, let's see. I think that the most fun one to talk about would be Teal Scott. Teal Scott has described herself as an Arcturian consciousness in a constructed body. And how are you going to prove it one way or the other, besides experiencing it, touching her, being in her vicinity, and experiencing what occurs around her and observing it, and see if there's something different, Is there something different about her that is noticeably different physically or noticeably different emotionally or experientially? And in my experience, there was something quite profound when you first meet her. All of the hairs on your body stick up, like your eyes are seeing something, and your higher self, higher sense, your more expanded self is seeing what is actually there, and they don't match very well. They don't. It's like seeing a lion in the wild dressed up like a lamb. It looks like a lamb to your eyes, but it's something quite entirely different. So I'm not going to say everyone because I haven't asked everyone, but everyone that I've talked to who had a first experience had some kind of profound body experience with hair sticking up. Most times a loss of memory, ability to remember what it was they want to ask. They basically go into a mode of just awe is not the right word. That they get moved into a different space where what was important up to then isn't important anymore. All that's important at that point is either running and hiding, or not being afraid, or hugging her and feeling like she's the most beautiful being on the planet type of thing. So that's quite a bit different experience than I've seen or experienced with most anybody. And whether that's because of Arcturian consciousness being in that body or not, I don't know. But the other thing that I noticed, which isn't uncommonly or unheard of, is her ability to shift physically, height-wise, much more drastically than is explainable normally. I mean, a person doesn't usually grow or shrink 8 inches in 6 weeks, and I observed that absolutely physically with pictures and everything. So I know that her body is subtle, able to shift in form, and metaphysically experiences with her and her vibrational art, and being in the vicinity of that with a group of people over a period of 4 or 5 days. Things like sleep, the energy that we were working with was nourishing enough that food was unnecessary. I think one day I had a half of a pecan, actually a half of a pecan and a couple of pieces of lettuce, and that was all that I was interested in eating. And we hadn't slept in probably 30 hours, besides an hour of meditation once in a while. It wasn't because we were all drugged up or anything like that. We just were not tired. We were completely engaged in communicating with each other and creating art and interacting in groups and discussing issues and thinking about things to the degree where I know everybody spent all night partying before or stayed up all night working or whatever, and the next day you feel miserable, absolutely, totally out of whack. And for 3 days that happened, and 4 days on the ride and the flight home, there was no hangover, no energy, oh my God, I feel terrible, oh my God, I'm going to crash. It didn't happen. It didn't exist. And I've had that experience repeatedly. It wasn't just a one-time thing, so I know that that's significantly different than normal experiences.
Yes, Teal Scott's a fascinating individual. I actually use her artwork as my avatars on Facebook, Planet Infowars, and all the other social networks I go on. Shows a different artwork for each avatar. I want to get that out to people, let people see that, because I know it'll affect them at a vibrational level. But speaking of affecting things at a vibrational level, there seems to be a little debate, and I brought this up with Marcia Schaefer, who was a guest recently on my show, but she said, I really don't know if I can truly answer this because I've never had an encounter with malevolent entities, and I don't believe you have either. But you might have the knowledge and wisdom to know what to do in a situation like this. What to do if you run into a malevolent reptilian alien. There's two sides to this story. I've heard a couple people say, if you run into a malevolent reptilian alien, just try to radiate love with your heart, love the monster, love the reptilian. It will not harm you because love, in a sense, is a weapon against it, and if you love it, it won't dare touch you. On the other hand, I've heard other people like Alex Collier, ET contactee, in his groundbreaking 1994 interview, he said, if you run into a malevolent reptilian alien, you're screwed, man. Don't bother trying to run. Don't bother trying to get metaphysical. There's nothing you can do. You're going to get torn to shreds. You're going to get eaten. Your blood's going to get drunk. So, two obviously different sides to this story. As someone who's an expert in light working and spirituality, who would you agree is right in that debate as to what you're supposed to do if you run into a malevolent reptilian alien?
Well, both are correct. And I say both are correct because they are both correct The one that needs to run he's screwed. If you run and you're afraid and you're going to play that game, you bet you that alien's got you. He's going to get you, eat you, suck your guts out, whatever the hell they want to do. You're absolutely playing the victim with that. And the other, radiating love at, will repulse it. I don't necessarily agree that is what's going to happen or wouldn't happen. It has to do with your agreement. Do you see this thing as a threat to you, or are you scared of it? Are you in fear? Your job is to maintain your state of being and to choose what you agree to experience. Nothing more, nothing less. And so if it is that you're afraid of them and you think that they're going to run away if you give them love, tried that and they got slaughtered. How many times have you heard of that? It isn't bad, but I don't think it'll be terribly effective because you see yourself as a victim or someone who's powerless to do anything or change anything with this. And so it has to do with your own empowerment, your own self-empowerment, your own agreements, your own choices. If you're choosing to be in that game, you bet a lion's going to bite you. You've seen people walking with lions, in the lion's den, playing with lions, wild lions, tame lions. They're not a victim of each other, and they're not in the predator and prey relationship, and the lions aren't killing them or attacking them in any way. And you can walk into that same cage, and you know they're going to smell the fear. I don't know about you, but I think I would have a problem walking into a lion cage and being able to control my body fear, and I would be probably eaten up by that lion. And I don't know if you have, without a lot of skill and ability and practice and thought, I don't know what your body would do if it encountered a 10-foot-tall lizard reptilian alien who wants to eat you. You know, that is going to take a lot of self-empowerment and a lot of body fear processing in order to have that encounter and come out fine without any issues. But the only way to do it is to essentially take control of your own power and make your own choices. And so if we start with that, simply this choice, no, I don't particularly want to get into a cage with a lion, then don't go to the door, open it, and walk in. That would be your first powerful decision. I'm not going to walk in that cage. That's simple. It's the same with a reptilian alien. You need to be in a fear state and in an open enough state to be opening the door to the cage so that they can access you in the first place. Otherwise, they don't have any way to enter. You're not even interesting enough. I mean, what makes you interesting? So interesting that a reptilian 10-foot tall wants to come eat you. They got billions of people to pick from. I guess try not to be so interesting.
Yeah, so going on to another topic here, President Obama, mentioned him in my news. There's also another debate of sorts about him. I mean, first of all, Andrew Bartz has said Obama's soul was harvested from Saturn. The planet Saturn is used, among other things, as an incubation and harvesting device for malevolent souls by the Illuminati. However, I heard Dolores Cannon, a hypnotherapist, a very prominent one too, love to get her on my show sometime. She said that the ETs that she has communicated with during her regression therapy have actually said that Obama is a light bringer. Now, I'm going to guess that what they mean by that is he's not bringing any benevolent light, but by light bringer is by being in that environment that he's in the middle of, he is drawing attention to himself, which even though he has purely malevolent intentions, he is bringing to light the fact that there is a new world order, and even though his intention is to speed up global totalitarian government, it's actually backfiring because he's bringing the light that will show that this new world order exists, and we need to expand our consciousness to defeat it. Is that probably what the ET contactees are referring to when they say Obama is a light bringer?
It's a little challenging to even speculate on that. That's pretty big. I think that I like the way that you're thinking about it, which is he is playing his part brilliantly, making it completely and totally and fully obvious to anyone who's looking. Is this what you really want? Well, how about this? I'll make it a little bit obviouser. How about this? This is even more obvious. I promised all this stuff and I'm doing this. Is this obvious enough? The way that you're trying to, or you are describing it, it sounds to me like that seems as reasonable as any, which is let's be really, really obvious about it. It's no hiding and no sneaking. It's completely obvious and apparent to you what's going on. Is this what you want? If this isn't what you want, well, do what you're doing and wake up yourself, wake up those around you, and let's make a different choice. We want to have a different experience. So I think you could take it both ways, just like you said.
Okay, I'm going to guess that you have finished talking because I didn't hear you say anything, but you were breaking up. So moving on, one thing I'd like to discuss for a moment here is 4D Earth, because Mother Earth as a planet is now in 4D. It is, even though we are not fourth density humans in the sense that our bodies are more light and time is an illusion, we don't need money to run commerce, and we can go without eating and sleep less and not have sex to reproduce. Mother Earth, however, is in a state of fourth density, and Andromeda Council contactee Tolek talked about that, said it would always happen in January 2014. That's what his contacts told him. And Franco De Nicola, who I'm scheduled to have on my show next week, a unified soul, he said that Earth is now in 4D. We humans, on the other hand, according to Bashar, who spoke to at the City of Angels conference when he was under the, when Daryl Anka, his human contactee, was communicating with him, said we humans will still have to be in this density without being in the fourth density for, he would say, about another 1,000 years. Well, let's imagine hypothetically that everybody on planet Earth all of a sudden realized we are infinite consciousness, we are everything that is, was, and ever will be. Okay, if everybody did that, could we speed up the process? And if everybody realized that, would we actually ascend into fourth density or fifth density if everybody on planet Earth realized we really are infinite consciousness?
All the information I've ever heard says it could be tomorrow, it could be tonight, it could be in 15 minutes. And my personal experience of that, as I understand it, is that your personal experience and your physical body experience of that is possible right this very minute. You're not restricted in any way. You're not limited in any way. The shared experience for the collective, that may take generations. It may take 1,000 years. It may be immediate. It may be overnight. That isn't something that anybody could predict or can predict because it is completely a completely free will choice of the collective that it is a part of. And so our desire to influence it to be quicker, which is really funny if you consider you're an eternal divine being, what is quicker? 30 years, 20 years, a million years? From this place, this time, that experience, 10 years seems like a century. As you get older, of course, 10 years seems like a year. And then I imagine as you get even older, 50-year lifetime seems like it went over in a blink of an eye. So the experience of time is, completely it's completely a fabrication of our what's the right words here? It isn't solid and limited to tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. It is more fluid. So experiencing what would be called a 4D life, a more expanded ability to be aware of and choose what it is you experience. Essentially, being able to reverse your age would be something that a 4D body would be capable of. And that is currently available. I've seen it. I know people who do it. I've seen it in myself. And, of course, then that means it's available to anyone who chooses it. Another 4D experience, some of those are tools like telepathy. They would be more in tune with your empathy, more in tune with your information, your body, your physical body, healing it. healing traumatic injury that would leave somebody crippled, and the ability to heal it yourself. You're, of course, healing yourself. You always are. But the ability to bring in and be supported while you do it, or do it on your own. All of these things are 4D skills, essentially expanded awareness skills and abilities, and they're natural and organic. And as a process of being on that path, brings to you all of the teachers, all of the instruction, all of the support you need to reach that experience. It's a choice that you make personally, individually. And as more individuals make that choice, the collective experience becomes the shared experience, and it becomes more solid for everyone. They can't avoid it. One of the things that we can do as a group, if we want to have this experience more solid, even in our town or in our village or in our house even, is live with aligned people, all high vibration people, all people that have the same intent, the intent to live a 4D lifestyle with a subtle body and tune to their bodies, meditations, communications with higher dimensional beings, connections, reconnections with the elementals on the planet, restructuring the way that you think about things like money, understanding that the programs that are being fed to you, not all of them you agree with, and you aren't actually restricted to following them. You can pick your own programs, pick your own ideas, pick your own thoughts. And this is available to you this afternoon if you choose it. There's no need to wait any length of time for the entire planet to get to that experience. It's probably like everything else. Yeah, it might have taken 10,000 years to get into this density. It might take 10,000 years to get to a different space, but I believe by all of those that I listen to, all of those that I see, all of those that I feel, and the way that it feels to me personally, that sometime within the next few years, these choices that we're making right now will become more and more of our experience, and we will essentially become invisible to those who have a different experience and a different collective experience. And the planet itself will be supporting our choice, and it will be allowing other choices to exist until essentially the generations change. We teach our children, and our children teach their children, and pretty soon all that is our children. Something like that.
Okay, I want to talk about religion for a moment, because many people will want to follow religion. It's your God-given right, they say. That's why the Founding Fathers put in the First Amendment. But I have seen more than enough evidence to show me, and so have a lot of other people, that taking up a religion is not a good idea, because it will suppress your consciousness. You cannot attain higher levels of consciousness if you decide to follow the teachings and the belief of a higher level being, when you yourself are already that higher level being, because you are infinite consciousness. You won't be infinite consciousness. You can't realize that if you worship some higher being, and that in and of itself is why religion is not a good idea. But as someone who's a light worker and spirituality expert of sorts, can you, just for the sake of all the people who want to follow their religion,
we don't ask easy questions on this show. I could see that we get to the meat potatoes of everything. So I'm going to assume we're on the air still, because I don't hear you right now. And essentially, religion, organized religion, structured religion, gods that we give our power to. Do you think that it's possible to have a relationship with a god as an equal being, as opposed to a being superior to you? I'm sure there's many of us who do. There's probably also many of us who don't. But for them, that is the experience that they actually need to have their own path of bringing themselves to a realization of who they actually are. There's nothing at all wrong with organized religion. It's not something that I find full myself, but it's something that I've seen many people find a great deal of help and relief from. It's, again, the classic example of multiple things, just like food, just like everything else. if you enter into the television believing everything there is true, you're going to have a pretty interesting idea of what reality is. And if you enter into an organized religion, believing that that is all absolutely true, you're going to have an interesting idea of what your reality is. And at one point or another, when that no longer serves to match the experience that you really want to have, you'll probably move on to a personal relationship with someone like Jesus Christ. And in that place, he, as a being, isn't interested in your worship. He probably never was. Well, I don't expect he ever was. In the world of being in control and harvesting your power and giving your power away, organized religion is an entirely different structure whose design is specifically to harvest your power. So there are many who have that need, the need to have their power harvested for a while, to be powerless for a while. That was their need. And the way that some feel powerful is in going from a completely powerless space and beginning to take their power back. So if that's what that creates for them, it's perfect for them. It's a classic. One of the best words, the best phrases I've been able to use for helping me clear my need to believe I'm right for everyone is the simple thing: their higher self knows better than me what they need to experience, and that is true enough for me.
Okay. By the way, I actually totally got disconnected there. So it's a good thing I got the question out right before I got disconnected. But no matter. Let's move on. Since you say, okay, religion is not a good idea, I think we could all agree it is. But one thing that is worth... Yeah. Okay, so anyway, moving on to, I guess, a related subject of sorts. Heart, soul, essence. Now, let me give a little story here. Two different sides to a coin here. Some people who are pessimists say, as a species, we're totally screwed. Like Jordan Maxwell, for example, has said there is no hope for humanity unless higher dimensional ETs come to help us and save us, because humans are too paradigmatic, too apathetic, too stricken with fear, and too stupid. Not all of them are, but many of them are to a great extent, that there's no hope for us. The archons will take us over. However, one other individual who I'm a fan of, George Kavasilis, has said that he felt within his heart, soul essence that planet Earth, at its heart, soul essence, at its deepest level, is purely love-based, and that means that the New World Order will never be able to fully succeed in their goal of global totalitarian government, because infinite love on Earth will always prevail, because that's what Earth is at its deepest level. And the New World Order may come downhearted a few times, Kavasilis said, but it'll never be able to achieve its total goal. And this is somewhat significant because Dolores Cannon mentioned her earlier. She has actually said that fear is an illusion. There's a lot of good out there. There's a lot of bad out there, but all the bad aliens, like the malevolent reptilians. Not all reptilians are bad. There's 18 species of reptilians on Earth that are influencing life on Earth, and only one is evil. But even Dolores has said that evil race, its heart, soul, essence is love, just like everything is. So, I mean, I guess what George Kavasilis said about Earth being purely love-based at its heart, soul level is true everywhere. Can you, as a lightworker, confirm the fact that fear is an illusion, infinite love is all that really is?
Fear is a physical experience, a fact. You have it. It is in your body. It isn't necessary to control you. It is a remnant, absolutely, of your desire to not be killed every 5 seconds. Because without a little bit of fear, you probably would walk into where you would die. Fear isn't necessary. It isn't a necessary part of our life anymore, to the degree where it controls your actions. Although it is absolutely a warning light sign. Hello, look, pay attention. There's something here that can harm your physical body. That's the information. of course, fear is real, true, and valid of an experience. Without that, how long would you exist? You wouldn't have the little warning light that's blinking and saying something. Hey, pay attention here. But it doesn't have to control your reaction, your response, your ability to use that information to the degree where fear is the ruler of all of your actions. It's the indicator light, the little warning light that goes on. There's something here to look at. And if it's somebody else who's implanting fear in you, pushing that little button, that little warning light, and turning it on, you can obviously process and clear and understand that this isn't a true message and I don't have anything to be afraid of. And on the other hand, if you're in the forest and you hear something big, huge clumping up behind you, and you have a little fear and it turns on your adrenaline and it gives you the ability to climb a tree really fast, and there's a bear who wants to eat you running up behind you, I mean, that's a pretty good use of fear. It is. It's giving you the message and you can listen. So the uncontrolled, persistent fear pushing buttons artificially and intensely to bring you into a place of a vibration where you're in constant fear and able to be controlled all of the time instead of using it as an information source. Yeah, that's not a very what's the words here? That's not something that I control my life. I can use it as a warning signal, and I can see when it's not actually a warning signal. It's somebody else attempting to play a game with me that I have chosen not to play, really. I'm not interested in that game so much. And so things like chemtrails and lead paint and microwave signals transmitted through the air to control your thoughts and to bring fear and to bring that emotion of fear into you. It's energy. And the emotion that it triggers is that one that you feel when a bear is running up behind you to eat you. And from that state of being, you're on instinct. And your instinct is attached to your subconscious thoughts. Your subconscious thoughts are there either by your choice that you've put there or, again, by your choice of what you've ingested and is there now, whether it was your choice or not to put it there. Ultimately, of course, it is your choice. But you're watching the same information coming at you. I'll just use the TV because it's a reasonably good example. The TV is transmitting information repeatedly over and over and over again. It's the same set of information that it goes into your subconscious thoughts. It becomes a part of your subconscious reaction. Instead of being able to respond, put into a fear panic state, you react. And the reaction that you have is that which was programmed into you. And you agreed to that because at this point you know that exists there. You know things in the sky with aluminum and everything are into your body. You know there's no shielded from it. So you know that these signals can get to you. And you know that you could have an experience and feel this fear. And this fear, you know now, isn't actually a true feeling, that you're not actually afraid of anything and nothing really happened and there is nothing in your vicinity that's danger to you. You can sense that it's artificial in nature, and you can essentially feel it as an experience of heat instead of an emotional go into reaction. You just take control of the situation in a sense. You process that fear if it is a fear, and you feel it as energy if it is simply energy. And it doesn't control your responses anymore. Your response is your own. So is fear real? I don't think there's a being on the planet that would say it isn't.
Okay, want to get some advice for people who want to use plants and crystals to suppress fear and expand love, because I hear that plants around your house are a great way to elevate your mood and your consciousness, and crystals are as well. Do you know anything about plants and crystals being used for good purposes, like wearing crystals, using crystals, and also what types of plants? So I guess my question for you is, what kinds of, to the best of your knowledge, what kind of plants and crystals do you recommend people use? Like, what kind of crystals do they carry, and what kind of plants should they put around their house if they want to expand their mood and expand their consciousness? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know I have plenty of crystals, and I certainly agree with plants. You're simply gauge how you feel walking in the forest, walking in a botanical garden, walking into the nursery. You walk in there, and your body will go, oh, my God, it feels good in here. And it could be the flowers. It could be the colors. It could be the green. It could be a lot of the green. It could be the light. It could be the oxygen. There could be the elementals that are attached to those plants that are hanging out with those. All of those things absolutely are things that you would choose to bring into your life. It just feels good. There isn't any particular specific plant. There is absolutely your own sensing of these ones are really pleasing to me. They feel how you feel, and they reflect to you back how you feel because they feel that too. And that's similar with crystals. Crystals are also alive and sentient and able to, I guess, be programmed would be a word that I don't really like the attachment to the word program, but they don't seem to mind it. That is a word that you can use. You don't really program a plant to reflect love back to you. You love a plant and it loves you back. And it's a shared experience. And a crystal is the same. You love it. You feel love for it. You feel attachment, interest, attraction to it. It also reflects that same thing back to you. And so it's useful and wants to be useful with you in, let's say, thinking of it like a crystal memory chip you have impregnated with this emotion, this thought, this process, this experience, and that is something that you bring into your field with you all the time. And so it's like a little bit of a battery booster or an energy booster. Whatever it is that you felt with it, it holds that and enhances it, I guess, supports it more. You bring it into your field, essentially. It's within your field expressing what it is that you have either assigned it or found it to be helpful for. It's kind of like you can buy crystal books that give you descriptions of what each crystal is good for or particularly suited for, and that is a way of you talking to yourself because you selected this book. And this book has a set of information in it that you agree with. And if it says tourmaline is good for making your headaches go away, well, for you, tourmaline is good for making your headache go away. Necessary that any of them have any particular use. It is necessary that you feel that and you believe that and you understand that and you agree to that with them, and they're happy to do that. It could be a rock. It doesn't even have to be a crystal, but crystals are, everyone loves crystals.
Yes, everyone does love crystals, and there is something else that a lot of people love. Please don't take this I don't want any of my listeners to construe this as saying that this should be done, but there has been still word made by people, including Alex Jones, that the New World Order and Illuminati forces, they do not want you to take hallucinogenic, psychedelic, psychoactive drugs. I'm not talking about hard drugs like alcohol, cocaine, and heroin. Those are consciousness suppressors of sorts. That's why the CIA ships them in and controls the drug trade, and that's why they made it illegal and such. Well, actually, the government doesn't have authority to make drugs illegal because we as the people never gave them that authority. So any idea that drugs are illegal is in itself an illusion. They're not, because the laws themselves are illegal. But let's assume for a moment that they don't want you to take hallucinogenic psychoactive drugs because it will expand your consciousness, will help you attain higher levels of awareness temporarily while under the influence. You'll attain higher consciousness that will help you in the long run, provided you don't abuse it like a drug addict, which most people would not do with hallucinogenic drugs. However, Sean Cohen, who's one of my biggest fans and was the first ever guest on my show, talked about how it's not in your best interest to take hallucinogenic drugs. What's the point? You're already infinite. Well, I mean, if you're going to accept the fact that in this third dimensional density that we are stuck in, you will not be able to attain infinite level for simply because you're trapped in this matrix that the archons have imposed. What is your personal take on the idea that it is or it isn't a good idea to take hallucinogenic psychoactive drugs to attain higher levels of consciousness?
That's a really good question. That's an excellent question. And I have a pretty good grasp of it. I have taken hallucinogenic drugs before, and no, I didn't abuse them. And the first time was a recreational thing. It was decades ago. And the experience that I had, it was life-altering to see, I guess, beyond the veil, see things that some call, oh, it's just your mind made it up. And other people say, well, that's really what it looks like. Transformational, yeah, absolutely well worth experiencing at least once or twice, if not a few more times. The most likely way to get any benefit out of it is to do it in a form where it's guided with an intention, the intention to have that experience, and then have that experience, whether it's with a shaman, whether it's with a guided meditational group, whether it's with music, whatever the intention is that you're bringing to it, not so much for recreation, but for the intention of having an expansive experience. Of course, absolutely. That's what they're on the planet for. They're not there on accident. If it becomes that is the only way that you can have that experience, then you've created a crutch for yourself, and it's a limitation that you don't really need to have. It makes it impossible for you to feel or experience that expanded level of consciousness without a crutch, and that wasn't the intended purpose for any of these things. It's simply an assistant, a tool, a plant teacher, a substance. And yeah, anyone who has a doubt about there being a higher meaning or an expanded meaning or anything more to their any more to life than go to work, wake up, eat dinner, drink beer, whatever. There's really not much more to it. Eventually die and get buried into the dirt and become worm food. Anybody that has that idea of experience, if they were to have a hallucinogenic experience, maybe only one time, I think they would change their mind pretty quickly that there is more to this. And so it could be, very important to some. The consciousness and ability to see and be aware of all of those things existing that you're not perceiving, that, the band of light that your eyes take in being 1% or 0.1% or 0.9%, I don't remember the number exactly, but a very, very narrow band of the actual light spectrum. The same with the sound spectrum. Dogs can hear what you can't hear, and whales can hear what you can't hear, and elephants can make sounds that you cannot even hear. The same with all of your senses. Your senses have and are tuned to a very narrow band, and so hallucinogens apparently expand the band of information coming into you, and it can be scary, it can be entertaining, it can be a lot of things. But if you are going into it with the right intention, it can be expansive easily. So absolutely not something to ignore. One of the things that I found to be illustrating this particular thing, a friend of mine who is and exists in a very, very expanded state of consciousness and complete awareness, had taken ayahuasca. I'm sure you're familiar with what ayahuasca is. She took it, and nothing apparently happened. Tried it again in a larger dose, in a bigger, more different area, in the real place, with the real vines, the real shaman, and the entire everything. And it didn't change anything she saw, which should give you a clue. It isn't that it had no effect on her. It's just that information is already available to her. So it wasn't assisting, but it didn't change anything for her. If I took it or you took it, I'm imagining that we'd probably see some things that we hadn't seen before, but that is what exists already in an expanded sense. So that alone, that brings me to the curiosity place. It's not necessary to have it to have that experience, and it could be a tool to assist. And if that is the tool you need, that situation will appear, absolutely. And in the clear intent way with clean love and all of that, it'll be perfect. And if it isn't something that you need, you're not going to find that opportunity. It's just not going to become available to you. It could be just across the street. You don't know. It's invisible to you. So what appears is probably there to assist you, but it's your choice how you take it, right?
Yes, it is. And okay, I want to change the subject here. Meditation. Now, I follow a philosophy when I meditate of always radiating out with my heart soul essence. And there's also the idea, and I got this from George Kavassilis, that when you meditate with the intention of bringing energy in, you're going to let negative entities come into you. And since you're already infinite, it's already in your best interest to just radiate out with your heart soul essence, radiate love. And there really is no better way to do it, he says. Well, it kind of all makes sense if you think about it, I guess. But can you think of any reasons why someone would want to meditate with the intent of bringing energy into them? And please understand, meditation is not the same as energy healing work, where you would bring unconditional love of light into you from your crown chakra and let it go through your body. That's different. That's healing. This is meditation I'm talking about. Can you think of any meditation where it's not where you may not want to just radiate out with your heart soul essence, but instead just let energy come into you? Can you think of any reason why you would do that?
Well, when I think of meditation, I think that it is a word that has a lot of meanings attached to it, and as you said, something along the lines of meditation and healing, meditation and asking. There's so many uses for meditation. There isn't a one thing that this is the way that you do it, and that's the only way you do it. There is a meditation in painting. There's a meditation in waxing your car. There's a meditation in quieting your mind and going within and checking in with your own body. There's a meditation in acting as a healer and getting into that spot where you are you and you're empowered and you're expanding your field. And there's a meditation where I want to take some information in or take some energy in. And there's a meditation where I want to feel this bigly, hugely. There's no one use for meditation, and there is no wrong way. I don't see any way as particularly more or less useful for a person. I don't see a danger in meditating. I don't think that I've ever heard of any case of meditating into meditating yourself into a heart attack or a death or something like that. But I do know that I did have one experience in one group setting where a very, very, very experienced meditator who was actually in savior to the degree that her physical body was willing to take on the illness of another, and in a deep enough state of meditation that occurred, and that wasn't actually what she wanted to do, and so it didn't end up being fatal, but it could have been. That would have been a very good experience. So it is possible to meditate yourself into a hazardous experience, I suppose. But, you know, that takes a huge amount of time, training, and depth and ability to be able to and want to put yourself in that space. And the place and space that she was able to see that and clear that from her field and not have that experience. She didn't really want it. So that was pretty far out.
Yes, it was. So I didn't really hear what you said because you broke up, but I'm sure it was far out. I'll find out when I listen to this. But I want to talk about the subject of chakras for a moment, because first of all, George Kavassilis' wife Cynthia, I've heard her use the phrase "dissolve the chakras." Do you by any chance know what the phrase "dissolve the chakras" means?
Well, like everything else on the planet, the chakras are a focus, space, place, an ability, a tool, a functional thing. And yes, you can exist without them being a requirement in your being. Or you could add a whole bunch of them to it. So dissolving them is part of a subtle experience. And I wouldn't see the benefit or detriment to doing it. I don't understand the purpose for wanting to dissolve your chakras.
Okay, I'm not exactly sure the context that she was specifically using when she said that. She seemed to be talking about as if it was a good idea to dissolve them because it would help you somehow. But I was thinking maybe dissolve had something to do with getting all your chakras, combining them into one, like combining all of them into one. And the reason I get that idea is there's been argued by some that there's really no sense in using any of your 7 chakras except for your heart, soul, essence, your heart chakra. During my private session with George Kavassilis, actually it was during my interview with him, not my private session, my radio show interview with him. He talked about how he doesn't even bother using his third eye, his pineal gland chakra, because he says everything is at the heart, soul, essence. Well, would you agree or disagree with the notion that that you should not waste your time using any of your other chakras? You might as well just use your heart 100% of the time.
No, I wouldn't agree with that. Actually, I don't see the utility of that, except for some who will find themselves locked into their lower chakras. Moving to a place where all of their thought is on their heart chakra would be helping them move some energy up. Because as you probably are aware, we are under a lot of attempt of control of our lower chakras in the sexual energy area. Everything is designed to stimulate those, to make them big, and to control through those. And so if you move to your heart from there, it's not like those ones are gone, but you've shifted your attention, your focus higher, and it's going to necessarily move the energy up. From there, you're less controlled, less able to be controlled because you're more within yourself. But you're forfeiting your essentially ability to manifest physically on the planet and ground through the planet, because those, while they are, not every single, I'm aware of other than this, but for the most part, all of us got here through those lower chakras merging with another being, having sex. And that sex and those chakras combine in a way to create a body for another soul to incarnate. That is one of the purposes of your lower chakras. Your chakras are for creating, right? It's creating creational energy. And I don't know if you want to call it comes out of there, goes in there. It's a focus for that place. And there's a question that you can ask: is that chakra there because your sex organs are there, or your sex organs there because that chakra is there? Whether or not it's there, I don't know if anybody has an argument about. In a sense, it is the focus, purpose, point, and color. The color has a meaning. The area has a meaning. The agreed use for it has a meaning. These things are thoughts that you can not have to define every bit of. You can agree to the thought, and it becomes that, all of the thought. It's a little bit like we'll call it a shortcut if you want. You don't have to consider every single possible bit of all the perspectives necessary to create a manifest, a physical something. That program exists, and you agree to use it. Is it necessary? No. Absolutely, probably not necessary. Is it helpful? For most all of us, yeah, absolutely it's helpful. Is there a time where you won't need it anymore? Or is there an upgrade to it where you can have another chakra that's aligned to a 4D experience with another set of colors, or maybe they're rainbows? Sure, that sounds fun. We're not really limited to that. But any information, like ignore those and move to another space, it's going to help some people because they are trapped or stuck in some way in a lower chakra area. And it's not that they are anyone that has taken that information in, needing that information. It's place anyway going to be able to ignore completely their lower chakras, but they will be moving some focus to their higher chakras, so of course they'll have some utility. It's exactly what they need to hear.
Okay, I want to get on another metaphysical subject here, two subjects actually, astrology and numerology. Now, I don't look at horoscopes, and I don't look at name horoscopes like in numerology. I don't really see the point. I acknowledge that astrology and numerology are real. The science behind them is real, but I don't really see the point of looking at them to guide my life and see what's going to happen, what might happen, what to learn from what happened in terms of astrological and numerological readings, because I think it's just better go through the flow with life and let your astrology and your numerology guide you while acknowledging that it exists but not obsessing about it. But at the same time, I can't help but wonder, maybe I am missing something by not looking at astrological and numerological readings. So for all the people out there like me, for example, who acknowledge it's real but don't care to look at it, can you offer any advice on whether or not it's in my best interest or not in my best interest to go through life with the flow while acknowledging that it exists but not obsessing about it or researching it?
Question, actually. I think that's fantastic, and there is a great deal to that. Now, as we get more expanded, we start to allow in more information, and the way that the information can reach us is limitless. And so if that limitless way is the only way I see it right now is reading it somewhere, then a horoscope is a very good way for your higher self to get you a message. Numerology is the same way. These numbers are special to me, and these numbers appear. That means, to me, I've told myself, if I see those numbers, that means pay attention right now. What's happening? This is a sign or a synchronicity of some kind, and I would like to be aware of what it is. And so it can be used as a tool to tell yourself stuff. It can be used as a tool to bring yourself into conscious awareness when you might have been just walking along. You'll get reminded, oh, yes, those angel numbers mean a lot to me. I really, really love those numbers, and they're here. What's going on around me? I should pay attention. I want to pay attention. I sent myself a message. Astrology is the same way, yeah. If you go there and say, okay, I give my power away completely. What it says, that's what I'm going to have. That's how it's going to go. And then sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, and you remember the ones that it does and the ones that it didn't. You kind of forget because you're in a powerless state where that rules your life. On the other hand, as it appears to me, oh, look, there's horoscopes today. I'll take a look and see what it says. And then you look at it and see if there's anything there for you. And if it says, you know, a little bit of tip, a little bit of guide, a little boost, you feel good when you're done reading it, you sent yourself a message. If it doesn't, it wasn't. It's not significant for you right now. It doesn't have to be all anything. It can be occasionally. That's how the message gets to you. So essentially being open to information, powerful enough and able enough to see it and see when it applies to you and see when it isn't relevant to you at all. You can even you could easily pick 2 horoscopes that you'll read. They're a little bit different. Maybe one's your birth sign and the other one's your moon raising sign. I don't know how. I'm not really expert on any of that, but rising sign, yeah. And read them both. Or read none of them. If you read none of them, it's like in order to have information come into you, you have to be open enough to allow it to present. So you have ears, and your ears you use to listen. And you'll listen to what you're choosing. If you don't listen to Fox News, that's pretty good use of your ears. Maybe you do listen to Fox News, and you're putting that in your ears. Same with astrology. A little different with astrology, obviously, because there is a lot of history to it. There's a huge collective understanding of it and many ways of interpreting it. And so the interpretation is a sense yours to use as it helps you. Some might pick the same reader and only one reader because that person doing those astrologies are in integrity and impeccability. And I would probably seek someone out like that. But that doesn't mean that the standard one in the newspaper at the back, that's just the AP version, doesn't have some value sometimes. So if it appears to you and you see it and you're interested, hell yeah, read it. Why not?
Why not read it? Even though I don't know if I will, but maybe one day I will change my mind there. But by the way, we got 4 minutes left, 4.5 minutes. I want to, before I have to let you go, since you're a fisherman, there's been a lot of talk about how it is not in your best interest to eat fish that come out of the Pacific Ocean because of Fukushima. And speaking of Fukushima, I'm interested to know, how has Fukushima affected your job as a fisherman and the fish industry in general? And also, how does Fukushima radiation, to the best of your knowledge, affect us at a metaphysical level? You got 5 minutes. Cover that as best you can.
That's a good one. No, that one goes so many levels. I think we'll just take it on the surface. The surface, apparent and obvious level. Apparently and obviously, inviting in change is uncomfortable for everyone. Not everyone, but most all of us want change, but we're really uncomfortable when it occurs. We believe 2012 there could be Armageddon, and some of us didn't. And in fact, if you think about it, through that period of time, there was Armageddon, there was flood, there was explosion, there was death, there was mass death, and there was the opposite too. Some of us had that experience, some of us didn't. With the radiation, it's going to be much the same. There is a massive amount of radiation comes off of the sun all the time, every day, all day, and there's massive radiation that comes out of Fukushima. There was massive amounts of radiation from 2,000 nuclear bombs blowing up in when they were doing above-ground testing. There's massive amounts of radiation on the Columbia River in the Hanford plutonium tanks that are leaking into the river. And so this is something that's existed and always existed. It hasn't not existed. It's always been a part of us, and it does have. Am I back? Hello? Well, it says I got 7 minutes or 5 minutes or something, and I got disconnected, so I'll just finish. That there's many levels and ways to look at all of this radiation. I don't necessarily agree with having radioactive substances entering my body. I'm not interested in having illnesses and diseases and all of that. I know that I can ingest and assist my body by... I'm here again. Well, Andrew called. I called him on his landline phone, and he said he was attempting to get back in. Not sure if we're on air or not. It sounds like probably the show is over. Just a few minutes. I know he mentioned Franco De Nicola is next week, and I absolutely love listening to Franco De Nicola. So I will be tuning in next week. That's for certain.
Hey, Larry. You can call in again. Try calling in one more time. We'll try to end this. We got 3 minutes left. Actually, 2 minutes. Call in one more time. I'll try to get you on. Bye. Yeah, folks, really sorry about that glitch there. Blog Talk Radio somehow dropped us off. Huge glitch problem. He's going to try to call in. We've only got like a minute left. So I'm just going to get him on as soon as he comes on here. Just so you guys know, I will be having Franco De Nicola Unified on my show next Wednesday. All right, you are on the air. Sorry about that. Sorry to all the listeners. I don't know where you got dropped off at, but I don't think we have much time to cover the whole extent of the Fukushima damage. I already pretty much covered it, basically. So don't worry about this, Larry. I just wanted to get you on again to let you know
Man. Amazing. We only had it for 30 seconds. That's excellent. Yeah, I mentioned